Okay, the third subtopic is on methods of purification and analysis. Take note if they ask you for purity of a substance, how to measure purity is to measure its melting point or boiling point. Okay, so the first method of separation is known as filtration. So you actually want to separate a solid that is not soluble from a liquid or a solution. Okay, so you will be asked to draw the setup. So what you draw, okay, draw your filter funnel. Need to label. Okay, so this is your filter funnel. So label this as filter funnel. At the filter funnel, you need your filter paper. So the substance that you want to filter will be here. This will be known as your residue. Okay, and you collect in a beaker. Okay, so this will be your filtrate depending on the question. So the one that passes through the filter paper will be the filtrate. So if you're asked to draw the diagram for filtration, okay, this is what you will draw. Okay, so this is to separate a solid from a solution. Example, all right, sand from sodium chloride, sand from seawater. Okay, this is one example. Okay, which means I want a solid to separate from the liquid. Okay, next. Okay, distillation is to obtain a liquid from a solution. So normally what you separate will be water, for example, from a salt solution. So the distillate here will be water. So if let's say you want to separate water from seawater, okay, so you are separating a liquid from another solution. So take note, if the thermometer, if it's water, it will show 100 degrees Celsius. Okay, the purpose of the condenser is to cool the hot vapor, right, to liquid, or you want to say condense, also can condense the hot vapor to liquid. Okay, the anti-bumping granules over here, this one you add to for smooth boiling, so that the whole the whole reaction is not vigorous. Okay, so for smooth boiling. Okay, so take note, what you collect will be water from seawater. Okay, next. Fractional distillation is used to separate two or more miscible liquids. So unmiscible liquids are liquids that dissolve in each other. So for here, normally fractional distillation, you will always find this one in terms of crude oil. Alright, or if you want, okay, it's here. If you want to separate, want to obtain components of air, because air will contain nitrogen, alright, oxygen. So if I want to obtain oxygen, I use fractional distillation. If I want to separate crude oil into different fractions, I will use also fractional distillation. Take note that for fractional distillation, you must have the fractionating column. Okay, and what is the concept? The liquid with the lowest boiling point will be collected first. Okay, one question that will always be asked is, name the physical property that is used to separate crude oil into different fractions. This physical property is actually boiling point. Okay, because the liquids are at different boiling points, so you actually have the boiling point to separate the components into different fractions. Okay, paper chromatography is something that you all will like a lot. Okay, so take note. You can be asked, starting line should be drawn with a pencil rather than ink. This is your start line. Okay, the ink will contain dyes that will interfere with the result. So which means when it's chromatogram is the components after separation. So the chromatogram is where you see all the different components after the separation. So why must you draw the start line above? So which means if I have a boiling tube, okay, so if I have a boiling tube, okay, my water level will be here. Okay, so this is what it means. The start line must be above the solvent level. So this is my start line. Okay, so this is my solvent. Okay, so what can you conclude? If let's say they ask you to have a conclusion, if this is one spot, this means that the dye is a pure substance. Pure substance. Okay, a pure substance only have one spot. Okay, so this is your conclusion if you are given this diagram. So this is your conclusion. Okay, if let's say for here, this is your conclusion for this. For number 2, your conclusion is this is a mixture of 3 dyes. Okay, so the 3 dyes are black, orange and yellow. Okay, so if let's say you get like this, okay, so if you get this and the color does not separate, so for number 3, right, okay, this one is no, you don't have any separation, you do not see the components. So why is that so? Because the dye or the ink is not soluble in the solvent. So what can you do? What can you do to change? You need to change the solvent. So the ink is not soluble in the solvent, that's why there is no separation. So what can you do? Alright, you change the solvent to another solvent. Just say change the solvent, you will not be asked to recommend a solvent. Okay, so those are the key points for what do you call it, for purification techniques.